Jonathan and Sarah Adleta had 2 children with the sole purpose of sexually assaulting and raping them. Jonathan Adleta was told by his girlfriend Sarah when she was pregnant that she was expecting a baby girl, and he said that the only way that he would marry her is if she agreed to allow him to rape this little girl continuously for as long as he wanted. Now, Sarah Adleta is such a sad, pathetic human being that she agreed to this so-called parenting plan, and she had the little girl and she married him. Not long after she had the little girl, they also had a little boy. Now, Jonathan Adleta carried out his plan. He raped this little girl repeatedly. He also sexually assaulted this little boy, and later, they ended up getting a divorce. Jonathan filed for divorce.
He filed for divorce.
He filed for divorce.
She's the sorriest person I've ever heard of.
She is the sorriest person I've ever heard of. And so they've both been tried, and they've both been found guilty. She pled guilty to 2 counts of sexual exploitation, and she faces up to 30 years in prison as a result of that. He faces life in prison. In fact, 10 years to life in prison, and hopefully he will get a lengthy sentence, because after he got a divorce, he started dating someone else who also had a daughter, and he proceeded to rape that girl as well. And by the way, the girlfriend, the new girlfriend, knew about it. She allowed it to happen, which means that there are 2 sorry-ass women in this story.
Yeah. Now, look, the guy is profoundly sick. He said the only reason he was interested in doing any of this is because he really wanted daddy-daughter sex. Okay?
It's disgusting.
And, I mean, to create a child, to have... when you first said this was the most vile story we've ever covered, and in the production meeting, I was like, come on, how bad? I mean, we've covered some terrible stories, but this really takes the cake. And for this sorry woman to say, well, she explained, I really wanted to be with him.
I know. I don't know where that desperation comes from. I don't know if it's because she was already pregnant, and you know, many reports do indicate that she was financially dependent on him, but I don't even care about that. I mean, that's there's no reason. You know, there's no reason that you would allow anyone to harm your own children like that, or any children at all. And I should note that he was awarded a Purple Heart in the Marines, and he was a high-ranking officer in the Marines. So, you know, he was highly respected. No one in his family or none of his friends expected him to do something like this. But you never know. There are monsters among us. And stories like this, I'm sorry to say, they make me very paranoid, because you realize that there's this prevalence of sexual abuse among children, and you don't know. It's always someone that you least expect.
Yeah, and to me, the other interesting part of this is how psychological relationships are. Because it's not like he was like the best looking guy in the world and they just couldn't resist. Now, of course, it doesn't have to do with looks. Some people can put a total psychological mental lock on their partners, and they can't break it under any circumstance. You know, you often hear about the women who've been abused and they continue in that relationship. And you're like, how could they? Well, then you hear this case and you think, you know, that's the abuse is nothing compared to this. Apparently, if you do this, unbelievable psychological manipulation, you can get a woman or a man, depending on the circumstance, to do just about anything. Because if you would do this, there isn't anything in the world you wouldn't do.
What's amazing is he found 2 women that allowed him to do this to their kids. And I should also note that there were some instances where she was forced or asked, I should say, to watch him assault their own daughter. She stood there and watched it happen. I can't understand how anyone would do that, but 2 women apparently were okay with it.